and sisters, it's my honor and privilege to introduce the Convention Resolution on Infrastructure and Investment. For those of us in the building trades, the jobs associated with building and repairing our country's infrastructure are our bread and butter. But these issues is much bigger than that. The state of our infrastructure touches every community and affects our entire economy. We count on sound roads and sturdy bridges to safely get kids to school and people to work. We rely on interstate highways and cross-county rail to deliver goods on time. And we expect that the United States of America, our drinking water, is safe and our electrical grid is strong. Living in the wealthiest democracy in the world, we are right to expect these things. But today, we find ourselves here in St. Louis, the gateway to the West, needing to stand together and demand loudly that this fundamental right from our elected leaders. For years, the unions in this room have put a lot of time, energy into pushing bipartisan infrastructure programs through Congress. The operating engineers have partnered with business and labor allies across infrastructure modes: the Water Infrastructure Network, the Transportation Construction Coalition, Americans for Transportation Mobility, and Rebuild American Schools. One of our coalition allies in these fights, the American Society of Civil Engineers, issues an annual report card. For many years now, they have given a grade of D+ to our nation's infrastructure. Ask any of the teachers in this room today, and they will tell you that we need to buckle down and get that grade up. And we can do it. Through tenacity, strength, and strategy, we have been able to secure fundamental labor standards in the FAST Act, the Passenger Intercity Rail Act, and the Water Resources Development Act. Let's build on the good work done in these programs. Let's structure future infrastructure investments through these existing programs. Take a look at the public-private partnerships in transit within the FAST Act. While not perfect, the language contains Davis-Bacon prevailing wages for construction, Buy American provisions for manufacturing workers, and it also includes anti-displacement provisions for those public sector workforces. Let's use the current laws to get people to work right away. Let's use the current laws to maintain our standards. And let's use current laws to make sure we maximize the jobs and economic benefits from the middle class through the use of our precious tax dollars. We must sustain this dedicated funding of the Highway Trust Fund. Lawmakers have not stepped up to increase the gas tax since 1993, and now it's forecast to fall off the cliff in October of 2020. This is unacceptable. It's time for the country, the labor movement, and our coalition allies to come together for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to invest in America, to rebuild this country, to create middle-class jobs, to employ so many of the members we in this room represent. Let's move this country forward. Let's invest in America now. Let's rebuild this nation with union hands, and let's pass this resolution. Mr. President, with that, on behalf of the Resolutions Committee, which recommends adoption, I move to Resolution number 7.
Thank you, Brother Jim. It is moved and seconded to adopt Resolution number 7. Discussion. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 2.
LeoGerard from the Steelworkers. Let me say that I rise in complete support with this resolution and in partnership with our friends in the building trades. Almost every segment of the infrastructure of this country is in crisis. My friend Mike Langford and I discuss often pipelines and water pipelines. He tells me that they lose between 6 and 7 billion gallons of water every day in leaky water pipes. That's after that water has been treated in water treatment systems. I live in Pittsburgh, the land of bridges. Half of the bridges can't be used by transportation of heavy equipment. They tell me that 60% of the schools are more than 50 years old, using old air handling system. Our members can make glass that keeps the heat in the winter and keeps the cool in the summer, but we've never talked about doing that. We talk about bridges. How many remember the Bay Bridge in San Francisco to Oakland that used Chinese steel and had to be redone 3 or 4 times while our members were being put out of work by the imported steel? Talk about high-speed rail. We've only got 1 rail mill left in America because we've been killed by Chinese rail mills. The issues before us, sisters and brothers, are about building the infrastructure of this country and building it union, but also building it with the products that are made by our members. The reality is for us, we're tied to the industry that is going to rebuild America's infrastructure. We have to be tied, so we're making it with domestic products. I can go issue after issue and point out, for so many times it hasn't been considered, where would the product come from? It's tremendously important that as we think about the future, that we recognize that as we rebuild the infrastructure, we've got to do it with products made by our members. I'll close with one final point. It's important that when we think about renewable energy, that you can't make a wind turbine without steel. You can't make a solar panel without aluminum. If we don't get the steel and the aluminum from domestically made steel, or at the very least North American steel and aluminum, what will be the future for all those industrial workers as we rebuild America's infrastructure? So I rise in complete support with our sisters and brothers from the building trades, but also say that it's important that we recognize where the products are coming from. They're going to help rebuild America's infrastructure. Thank you very much, Brother Chairman.